So Bron Breakker thinks he can just walk into WWE, put his hands on the tribal chief's Wiseman, and there won't be consequences? Let me tell you something right now, what we just witnessed isn't just disrespect. It's not just crossing a line. What Bron Breakker did to Paul Heyman is a declaration of war against the entire bloodline, and if you think Roman Reigns is going to let this slide, you don't know anything about the head of the table. For those who somehow missed it, let me paint you the picture of what went down. Bron Breakker, Rick Steiner's son, wrestling royalty, the man who's been tearing through the roster like a wrecking ball, didn't just attack Paul Heyman, he brutalized him. We're talking about a spear that sent Heyman through the barricade. We're talking about repeated power slams on the concrete floor. We're talking about a man in his 50s who has given everything to this business, being treated like a crash test dummy by someone who weighs 240 pounds of pure muscle and apparently zero respect. And here's what's really eating at me, Paul Heyman wasn't even in a match. He wasn't trash-talking Bron Breakker. He was literally just doing his job, standing at ringside, being the special counsel to the tribal chief, when Breakker decided that violence was the answer. No warning, no provocation, just pure, unadulterated aggression for the sake of making a statement. And what statement was that exactly? That he's tough? That he's fearless? Or that he's absolutely lost his mind? Because let me tell you what that attack really says. Bron Breakker just signed his own death warrant. Now, Roman Reigns hasn't made an official statement yet, but sources close to the tribal chief are saying that what's coming for Bron Breakker is going to make his attack on Paul Heyman look like a gentle massage. We're talking about a man who has dominated WWE for over 1,300 days as Universal Champion. A man who has conquered every single person put in front of him. A man who doesn't just beat his opponents, he annihilates them, humiliates them, and makes them acknowledge him. And Bron Breakker just attacked the one person Roman Reigns trusts more than anyone in this world. Think about that for a second. Paul Heyman isn't just Roman's manager or his mouthpiece. Paul Heyman is family. He's the Wiseman. He's the counselor who helped guide Roman to the top of the mountain and keep him there. When Roman's own cousins betrayed him, when G and Jimmy turned their backs, Paul Heyman was there. When Sami Zayn infiltrated the bloodline, Paul Heyman was the one warning Roman. This man has bled for the tribal chief, sacrificed for him, taken chair shots and Superman punches to protect Roman's interests. And now he's in a hospital bed because Bron Breakker wanted to prove a point. Here's what makes this situation even more explosive. Bron Breakker is not some nobody. This isn't like when some random wrestler tries to make a name for themselves by going after the top guy. Bron Breakker is a second-generation superstar with the legendary Steiner genetics running through his veins. He's the Intercontinental Champion. He's young, he's hungry, he's incredibly talented, and most importantly, he genuinely believes he's untouchable. That confidence? That arrogance? That's going to be his downfall. Because what Bron Breakker doesn't understand, what he's about to learn the hard way, is that there are levels to this game. Sure, he's been dominant. Sure, he's been running through everyone on Raw like they're nothing. But Raw isn't SmackDown. The Intercontinental Championship isn't the Universal Championship. And being a rising star is not the same as being the tribal chief. Roman Reigns operates on a completely different plane of existence. When Roman attacks someone, it's not just physical, it's psychological warfare. He doesn't just beat you in the ring. He breaks your spirit. He makes you question everything about yourself. He makes you realize that no matter how tough you think you are, no matter how much of a genetic freak you might be, you will never be on his level. And that's exactly what's about to happen to Bron Breakker. Now let's talk about the timeline here, because this is where things get really interesting. Paul Heyman was attacked on Monday Night Raw. Roman Reigns is the face of SmackDown. That means Bron Breakker thought he was safe. He thought he could commit this heinous act and have at least a few days before there were any consequences. He probably thought that by the time Roman could retaliate, the heat would die down, people would forget, and maybe, just maybe, WWE management would step in and prevent things from escalating. Wrong. So incredibly wrong. Because according to multiple reports, Roman Reigns was backstage at Raw within hours of the attack. Not at SmackDown. Not at his home recovering from his last match. At Raw. On Bron Breakker's show. In Bron Breakker's locker room territory. And he was asking one simple question: where is he? Security had to physically restrain Roman from hunting down Bron Breakker right then and there. And that's not because Roman couldn't handle the situation himself, it's because when Roman Reigns unleashes the kind of fury that's currently building inside him, people get seriously hurt. We're not talking about a worked WWE storyline here. We're talking about legitimate rage from a man who just watched his mentor and friend get destroyed. And here's where the situation gets even more complicated. WWE management is apparently trying to keep them separated until there's an official match set up. They want this handled professionally, in the ring, with referees and rules and all the proper protocols. But Roman Reigns doesn't care about protocols right now. The tribal chief doesn't answer to WWE management. He doesn't answer to anyone. He answers only to family. And family was attacked. So what happens next? Well, there are several possibilities, and none of them are good for Bron Breakker. The first scenario is that Roman shows up on Raw unannounced and delivers the single most devastating beatdown we've seen in years. We're talking Superman punches until Breakker can't stand spears that break ribs, and a message sent so clearly that every single person in that locker room understands that touching the bloodline means the end of your career. The second scenario is that Roman uses his influence and power to get Bron Breakker transferred to SmackDown, putting him directly in Roman's crosshairs every single week. Imagine having to show up to work knowing that the most dominant wrestler of this generation is waiting for you, watching you, planning your destruction. That's psychological torture. That's what Roman does best. The third scenario, and this is the one that honestly seems most likely, is that we're heading toward a massive match at one of WWE's premium live events. Maybe Survivor Series. Maybe the Royal Rumble. A match where Roman Reigns doesn't just beat Bron Breakker, he ends the Bron Breakker experiment. He proves once and for all that there's the tribal chief, and then there's everyone else. But here's what's really fascinating about this whole situation. Bron Breakker had to know this was coming. He's not stupid. He comes from wrestling royalty. His uncle Scott Steiner was one of the most feared wrestlers in the business. His father Rick was a legitimate tough guy. Bron grew up around this business. He knows what happens when you disrespect someone of Roman Reigns' stature. So why did he do it? Some people are saying it was planned by Paul Heyman himself as part of some elaborate scheme to draw Roman back into the title picture. But that theory doesn't hold water when you look at the actual footage of the attack. Paul Heyman wasn't selling. That wasn't the face of a man in on the plan. That was genuine fear. Genuine pain. Genuine shock that this was happening to him. Others are saying that Bron Breakker is being manipulated by someone behind the scenes. Maybe Triple H promised him protection. Maybe someone in management told him that if he made this big statement, he'd be fast-tracked to the main event. Maybe there's a larger conspiracy at play to finally dethrone Roman Reigns by using Bron Breakker as the weapon. But the most likely explanation? Bron Breakker's ego wrote a check that his body is about to cash in the most painful way possible. He saw an opportunity to make headlines, to get people talking, to establish himself as the biggest threat in WWE, and he took it without thinking about the consequences. And those consequences are named Roman Reigns. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Can Bron Breakker actually beat Roman Reigns? Is there a world where this attack was actually a brilliant strategic move that gives Breakker the psychological edge? Is it possible that we're all underestimating just how dangerous Bron Breakker truly is? Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Bron Breakker isn't impressive. The man is a freak athlete. He's got speed that doesn't make sense for someone his size. His power is legitimate. We've seen him military press guys who weigh over 200 pounds like they're children. His intensity is off the charts. And he's got that Steiner genetics that made his family legends in this business. But Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns for a reason. He's not just about physical ability. He's about timing, strategy, understanding psychology, knowing exactly when to strike and how to maximize damage. Roman has been in the ring with everyone: John Cena, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes. He's seen every style, adapted to every challenge, and come out on top every single time. Bron Breakker has impressive wins. Roman Reigns has a legacy. And that's what makes this situation so dangerous for Breakker. Because even if, and this is a massive if, even if Bron Breakker somehow manages to get a victory over Roman Reigns, what comes after that? The bloodline doesn't operate alone. When you come for the tribal chief, you get Solo Sikoa. You get Tama Tonga. You get Tonga Loa. You get an entire family structure designed to protect their leader at all costs. Bron Breakker just declared war on an army while standing alone. Unless, of course, he's not standing alone. And this is where speculation gets really interesting. What if Bron Breakker has backup we don't know about yet? What if this attack on Paul Heyman was just the opening salvo in a much larger invasion? WWE has been known to build factions around dangerous individuals. What if someone is building a stable specifically designed to take down the bloodline once and for all? Imagine Bron Breakker aligned with other young, hungry wrestlers who are tired of watching Roman Reigns dominate. Imagine a coalition of chaos specifically engineered to destroy everything the tribal chief has built. That would be the only scenario where this attack makes any strategic sense at all. But even then, even with backup, even with numbers, even with the best possible scenario for Bron Breakker, does anyone really believe that Roman Reigns can be defeated? This is a man who has survived every single challenge thrown at him for years. He's outlasted faction warfare. He's beaten multiple opponents in the same night. He's kicked out of finishers that should have ended him dozens of times over. Roman Reigns isn't just a wrestler. He's an institution. He's the final boss of WWE. And Bron Breakker just rang the doorbell. What's really interesting is how the WWE Universe is reacting to all of this. Social media has been absolutely on fire since the attack happened. Some fans are calling for Bron Breakker's immediate suspension. Others are praising him for finally having the guts to go after Roman Reigns in a way that actually matters. Some are worried about Paul Heyman's health, and rightfully so, considering the man's age and the brutality of the attack. But the overwhelming majority of fans are saying the same thing: Bron Breakker is a dead man walking. And they're right. Because here's what people need to understand about Roman Reigns: his reactions aren't just about revenge. They're about sending messages. When Roman attacked Edge, it wasn't just about Edge. It was a message to everyone that no Hall of Famer is safe. When Roman destroyed Brock Lesnar, it was a message that even the most dangerous beast in WWE history bows to the tribal chief. When Roman conquered The Undertaker's streak legacy holder, it was a message that legends die at his feet. So what message is Roman going to send with Bron Breakker? My guess? That youth and athleticism mean nothing without wisdom and respect. That genetics only take you so far before you face someone who's simply better than you in every possible way. That there are consequences to your actions, and sometimes those consequences reshape your entire career. Bron Breakker wanted to make a statement. Roman Reigns is about to write a dissertation in response. The question now isn't if Roman will retaliate, it's when, where, and how devastating the retaliation will be. Will it be a quick, violent explosion of rage? Or will it be a slow, methodical destruction of everything Bron Breakker has built? Will Roman take the Intercontinental Championship just to prove a point? Will he injure Breakker so severely that he's out of action for months? Or will Roman do something even more brilliant? Will he make Bron Breakker acknowledge him? Because that's the ultimate humiliation in Roman's world. It's not enough to beat someone. They have to admit that he's better. They have to bend the knee. They have to acknowledge the tribal chief publicly and completely. Imagine Bron Breakker, after all his bravado and aggression, being forced to stand in the middle of the ring and say those words, "I acknowledge you." That would be the most devastating blow of all. Whatever happens next, one thing is absolutely certain: the WWE landscape is about to change dramatically. This isn't just another storyline. This isn't just another feud. This is a clash between the established order and chaos itself. This is the immovable object meeting the unstoppable force. This is Roman Reigns defending not just his position but his entire legacy against someone who genuinely believes they can take it all away. Bron Breakker attacked Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns is about to respond. And when the dust settles, we're either going to witness the birth of a new top star in WWE, or we're going to watch Roman Reigns remind everyone why he's been at the top of this business for so long. My money's on the tribal chief. And if you're smart, yours should be too. Because Bron Breakker just learned the most important lesson in WWE: you don't touch the bloodline's Wiseman and walk away unscathed. You don't disrespect the tribal chief and expect forgiveness. You don't start a war you can't win. And Bron Breakker just started a war he absolutely cannot win. The question is, how much pain is he willing to endure before he realizes it?